coat on, they've got a new policy that they don't go, but, and the other side of the building is so hot, they can't take it. So,
Oh, nice.
and I
There's
don't
no
want
such thing as a
so you just
building
put a
that
coat
is-
on,
Yeah.
you dress warmly, put an extra coat
Yeah.
on.
It just is never even.
No,
We
so
can,
you just,
we can go to the moon, but we can't heat a building evenly through the whole.
no, and and again, especially because we've got the treatment going downstairs, I don't want them to mess with any of the ventilation systems.
No.
So I'm like, so I just wear my coat.
Christina, when you get a chance, you can change the vice chair on policy to Pat, okay?
Let me make notes real quick. Let me make some notes real quick.
That's the only note I got.
Just Pat to
Vice chair of
policy.
policy
Okay,
instead of Angie.
okay.
There's our leader,
Good afternoon.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Hi, Bob.
Good afternoon. How's everyone?
Good.
Good.
It's January
Yes, it is.
and we're still doing Zoom.
We're on our feet and taking nourishment.
That's true.
Yes.
I got out of bed at night, my feet hit the floor, so that's good.
I suspect January won't be our only month of doing this either,
No,
unfortunately.
yeah.
I did send that to Charlotte.
Well, yeah, it's all good to see all of you safely in your homes and staying away from the big bad Omicron.
Yeah.
So far, so
Over Christmas, I felt as though people around me were falling like flies. We must have used conservatively in this house after everyone got here and then found out they had contacts, and we must have used 12 COVID tests.
really.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
And again, I think that, I heard a little bit today and this morning, and again, we learn a lot through all of
Yeah.
this. Someone said probably the strategy that we recommended over the holidays of testing before you get together was probably don't get together, should have been the strategy, because Omicron was just too, the testing, you needed to test daily almost on it.
Well,
With the rate of, And so, no.
it worked. And we had at least 4 people in the family who were not staying at my house get sick. And none of them had any appreciable illness.
Well, that's, vaccinated and boosted.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what, it's hard, again, it's very hard to counteract, and people have a hard time understanding. It's like flu vaccine, right? At about 60-something% effective. The end result, at one point, I think we were going for an end result of no disease, but that really never, unless a vaccine's 100% effective, that really never, so the end point now is really having people understand it's to reduce hospitalization and reduce, deaths. And when I start seeing, people talk about, hospitals aren't reporting that many deaths. No, because they're being reported in private residence. So they are not dying in hospital. And so, people need to be clear, it's, so again, the idea being, the goal is not to get sick. They've come up with, and there's been more, again, kind of constantly evolving, science ever changing, or maybe even our understanding of science as we know it. Think about some of those early models of even type 2 diabetes and things like, triggers that, immune disorder systems, but they were talking about COVID psychosis. And a small percentage of individuals will actually develop like a DSM-5 diagnosable psychosis post-COVID, not just COVID fog, like I'm tired, I'm recovering from a viral infection, I'm living in a pandemic, I feel isolated. It's true blown psychosis. And so, every time you think this disease is, that people understand what it may cause or what it may not cause, there's a new kind of a nuance to it. And
Explain that, please. What does that mean?
Well, individuals that, think about things like schizophrenia, like may have a sudden psychotic episode where they lose touch with reality, Ron. They,
Okay.
May hallucinate. They may, I'm going to say, have inappropriate judgment and actions. These are the people that, would have been stable and all of a sudden are out in the driveway without clothing on,
So you're saying about a typical day for Ron then, right?
I don't think so.
Well,
But I think
since my one niece who got sick is a judge, I'm sincerely hoping, and she's back to work.
Yeah, what's under the
sincerely hope
robe?
that she's fine.
Okay, I guess we do have a quorum. I have a question though. Are there any changes on the personnel committee for members? I got Ron, John Halverson, me, Pat, and then Bob's ex officio. So
Jennifer.
Jennifer's supposed to be on it.
Jennifer, okay.
Jennifer, yes.
So we got 1, 2, okay. So we do have a quorum. I guess we can go ahead and start. Okay, is there a motion for approval to the agenda?
I approve. Move approval.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is the policies. I'll turn it over to Dr. Martell and Charlotte. I don't see Charlotte on here, but
Yeah, she's here.
She's here.
she's here.
She's outside, but she's here.
Okay, now I see her. Okay.
Well, again, this is going to be reviewed by all 3 committees tonight. So I apologize for those of you who will see it from Personnel, Policy, and Finance, because we provided the same document to all 3 committees. So we began to look at kind of our overall compensation policy back in September, really with the policy committee. We started to see some turnover rates that were concerning, especially among, I'm going to say, disease investigators and environmental health inspectors. And we, at that point, reached out to, first of all, human resources at Winnebago County to kind of do, are we competitive on our salary starts, right? That's the first thing. Are we able to recruit, bring people in? And the answer was yes, we were highly competitive. In fact, we were above most in the area. The challenge was, what we're seeing is about 2 years into their employment history with the department, they would then be recruited outside and would be valued higher outside as an experienced individual. So what we started to look at is across all of our categories. So a couple of different things come into place. One is how do we value people appropriately upon entry? How do we retain them? And then looked at what our compensation ranges had been. And so the challenge was that they had to work here almost 2.5 years before they saw any increase in salary outside of a cost of living adjustment. So they were not, I'm going to say, front loaded in terms of valuing them. And when you think about, you had multiple compensation policies in place. You had one that talked about establishing ranges for classification, in which there was a midpoint and a kind of, I'm going to say, end range. I'm not sure that's an end range per se, but let's say kind of a midpoint range. You also had things that said we want to reward people for longevity and retention. And so we started to look at where are we valuing individuals. So just to understand a little bit more about the county system is that when you think about 10 years, you're fully vested in the pension plan. So when you start thinking about what do government employees, we don't have profit sharing, and we don't have a lot of bells and whistles in terms of, tiered salaries. And so really thinking by 10 years, you should be in the upper ranges of that salary grade if you were to start in the door with us. At 5 years, you really should be hitting midpoint if you take a half of 10 years. And so taking a look at midpoint. So that was kind of where we started to take a look at. And we had looked at the nursing salary range, I want to be clear, back in February of 2018. We also have, in 2019, the Illinois minimum wage law was amended to increase minimum wages by I'm sorry, no, we didn't put that by year. So up to 2025, in which we'd have to achieve $15. So we were already going to face some salary compression concerns, meaning that as we adjust the minimum, then you have to look at every tier within that and adjust accordingly. So kind of took a look, and Charlotte and I started to sit down and take a look at what does it cost us when we, first of all, when we lose an employee, what's the cost on that? Because there's a cost associated with turnover. What would it cost us to begin to start to move in that direction to get people valued appropriately, to recognize their years of experience as they come in, and then value them in those front years so that they stay in position, right? So I don't want them being able to recruit out higher at 2 years when I've given, that experience. I wanted them to stay with us at the health department, not move to another health department and move to a private entity that does environmental health inspections, to start to reward them earlier for their performance. So, and I know that Bob and both Ron were in other meetings. So, we talk about our compensation plan. We really don't have performance-based raises that's something in government that's very hard to implement and or exact. How do you value? We don't produce widgets. We don't sell product. So you kind of, outside of the COLA, we really needed to take a look at that. So we were proposing that we would start to implement a different kind of compensation salary proposal schedule so that individuals who were to start would have reached their midpoint of the salary schedule at 5 years and would be reaching the maximum at 10 years. And so the next part of this process was to then take a look at, I'm going to bring you back to page, which is after that proposal, there is a section called Proposed Wage Compensation Plan. It's a chart. I had Jim do some financial analyses. And so we can also, we looked at the number of positions, and Charlotte, please chime in at any point. What he did was we took a look at what was it going to do to, how would we, what we call true it up, right? So if we were to say, let's get everybody who's been here 5 years to midpoint, everybody, if we implemented the salary schedule, what would it cost us? And what would be our break even point in terms of how much money we have to invest in this versus how much money we lose on the turnover, what that kind of investment is. And so if you're to look at 2022 year, this is where in 2022, the plan true up. I really want to say the incremental cost is what you really need to be focused on, because he's just showing what the base wage for employment would be. And looking at all the employees that would be eligible for that, we're talking about an incremental cost of about 300,000 thereabouts, which represents about a 5% increase over current salary. And the turnover break even are 14 positions. And I can tell you that we're pretty much already approaching that as we speak. And I think we have actually exceeded that as of today. Year one, which would be 2023, you start to see that it's about 252,000, a 4%, representing 12 positions. And really, you're taking your hits in those first 4 to 4 years, really, which is where the difference occurs. But the time you're getting to year 4, which is 2026, you really are talking less than a position at that point. Because I think the other thing is, if we were to implement, can we sustain it? So finance will be looking at this more in depth, but the idea being that we really have to start taking a look at an investment now. Because again, in one of the areas I'm concerned about is that we will not have the public health professionals we need to sustain the department if we continue to have this, especially whether you call it I've heard it called the great retirement or the great, great resignation, but we certainly have individuals doing a lot more movement in the employment market, and we have a lot more vacancies that we're not able to fill. We also had to build in for that. We talked about building in that wage, that minimum wage, and then making sure our salary grades then are, so if we were to increase to get to our minimum, we talked about that in those different areas. Each year we have to add a certain amount of cents per hour so that each salary range, then it's not a percentage, it's actual dollar amount. So again, we kind of took a look at this, and again, we were talking about incremental costs of about talking about what that would cost us per year. So where are we going to get the funds from, right? So we talked about a couple of things. One is this would be an appropriate use, and we talked to finance about, and we'll continue to talk to them as well. They'll have to approve the plan, is to look at our public health emergency reserve, which is well above that dollar amount, kind of as the other part that we will be getting funds from several different grants, which is kind of interesting. They're calling sustainability funds that are supposed to be directed towards salaries during the pandemic. So we will be able to kind of offset some of this, and how much of it depends upon how much we can eke out of different areas to be able to true this up in 2022. The Department of Human Services has already released some funds. Any future positions in our grants, obviously we would just charge the grant and build that in. But there would probably be some monies that would have to come out of our public health emergency reserve, which is above our current minimum standard. So that kind of, Charlotte, is there something else in there that I've missed that you? Okay. So the next page kind of just gives an idea. If you were to look at the different pay grades, the first year, so year 0 is, again, that kind of just proving everybody up. But if you were to come in and after 1 year of service, you would get a 5% increase on your salary. Now that's in addition to any COLAs, which are already built as part of the budgeting process. I want to be, so year 2 would be valued at 7%. So we're really trying to keep those individuals. So within those first couple of years, right? So they're not out the door on us. And then years 3, 4 are 5%. Year 5 is 3%. And then starting after year 5 becomes the, I'm going to say the cents that are just, this is just to prove up the rates, right? To get us to the midpoint. Now those sections actually move every year because of the minimum wage change, right? And any COLAs get built. So every year we have to kind of take a look at this again, right? To recalculate everything. But I want to be, you know, I kind of wanted to give some progression out there so that you can see by, again, what he's done is then show us the minimum pay grade, the midpoint, and the maximum, so that we really are trying to get people up to those salaries as we move, you know, forward. Now, obviously, we often talk about individuals being at year 10, and then you start seeing in 5-year increments, right? So we start that, what we, in the old days of the industry, we used to call redlining, right? So you held for 5, and then they would give you a bump, and you held for another 5, and it gave you another bump. So that's what you're seeing towards. So an individual, you know, if you got years 40 more, you get $1.50 an hour for the increase. So that you can see all the different grades. And then, so then Charlotte and I looked and I said, oh, Charlotte, we need to change some policy because you have multiple policies that address compensation prior to this. And really they needed review because they were last updated in 2012. It's kind of like a 10-year reunion, as we would say. And so this would replace compensation philosophy, which is D1, D5, which is their salary administration, D6, which deals with longevity, years of service, and D7, which is promotion, demotions, and transfers. So they have been incorporated into this policy that really is called the classification then and compensation policy. And Charlotte's kind of the expert on this one.
You want me to speak to it?
Sure.
Okay. So basically there's 2 sections. The first section sets up the classification plan for the employees, which we already had them set into classifications, and that's Appendix A. It does provide that the Personnel Committee will review these on an annual basis to see if there's any changes that need to be made to the classifications. And then the second part is the compensation plan that works in conjunction with the classification plan, that will also be reviewed on an annual basis by the finance committee to see if any adjustments need to be made. Obviously, those would probably come as a recommendation from administration. So that's pretty much it. It provides for the minimum wage increases. There is a provision in there that it does depend on the budget. So if for some reason there's a real issue with the budget and we can't afford these increases, well, under the policy, you can not give the increases and we'll have to deal with
Halt it, right?
So
Procedural question. Is there one particular committee that's going to bring this to the board?
You mean for the Tuesday night meeting?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just an order. I think that finance goes first typically, and so probably they'll be the first to say that they are advancing it if they choose to advance it, Ron.
Okay, good.
So that, you know, so that they're going to identify that they have the funds to support the policy. And then, of course, then we have, I think it's policy goes first, then personnel, or personnel.
I think it's personnel. Personnel first.
And personnel would indicate their, and many of you have overlaps on all committees. As I said, I apologize, you may hear from it, but it does have, it has all those. It has the personnel, what is it that you outline for employment personnel policies, then it's an actual policy, and then you have the actual financial piece. So it was one of those policy, how do we say, it was one of those items that crossed across all three committees.
Right, but I mean, one committee could bring it up and we could just discuss it and pass it or not pass it. And if it's finance, I always like John doing it.
Well, it's Dr. Williams now.
Oh, that's even better.
John is removed.
That's even better. John, you lucked out. Is that you, John? I was wondering who was on the phone.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if it came up name or number. That is me.
Yeah, just number. Good.
Sorry.
No, usually it's Angie. That's why I wasn't sure who it was.
No, I'm driving on the road, so I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. That's very, very nice of you. But yes, I've passed on that torch to Dr. Williams.
Well,
Congratulations, John.
He was very willing
Thank
to
you.
accept it.
so at the meeting, could we simply each committee speak for its recommendation and then save the vote by the whole board for the last committee? Do you know what? Because otherwise,
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, but if whoever brings it up, we can all talk about it and
you can
just vote on it.
Right,
I mean,
you could also do it
this is
as,
gonna pass, right? I mean, this is gonna pass.
well,
yes.
I mean, I think that, again, you know, we've been trying to get it out there so people had questions or if they had other suggestions. We've been trying to look at this. I just feel like we can't wait much. How do I say it? I mean, let's start the new year on the right track. And this would be retro to January 1st.
Right.
Okay.
As long as we make sure it's on the agenda.
And probably the other provision, yes, we have it on the agenda, along with the other provision that's in there is if we were to implement a COLA, we would then postpone a COLA. Usually we've done that in April to June. So we'd only be doing a salary administration in January and then June, 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that we're just for to be honest, because of the salary, the way that finance has to process the paperwork. So every January that would go, you know, again, any changes to the compensation plan would go into effect, right? And then so that they could process any changes outside of the anniversary dates, because people are involved with anniversary dates. And then again in June, they'd have to process again for if there was a cost of living adjustment. And we would build that into our budgets then, so that would go into effect rather than in April, in June. I shouldn't say in July. It's actually 6 months. So July 1st, it would go.
You're muted. Yeah, you go. You're muted, Pat.
Oh, there. Okay, I need to ask a question. So in the past, we haven't always postponed COLAs, have we? I mean, I think
Well, since I've been here, we have, and why we did that was that in the past, a lot of times you used to do it at the beginning of the county fiscal in October.
yes.
The challenge that we had was oftentimes we were working at grant funding. And so we wanted to be 6 months into the grant so we would have a better sense. Typically by October, we're only 3 months into the fiscal year of the grant. So if grant was not going to make it, Pat, we had trouble planning. So that's why we had moved it to April. And so now, because we're doing adjustments earlier, then we're going to push on the COLAs, right, to 2 months later. The idea being just because of the salary, I'm going to say the paperwork administration, because all this then gets tied. Each one of these employee records has to be reviewed independently, right, to figure out what steps, what grades, and then their COLA. And that was an administrative request. And then again, any adopted COLA would be effective July 1st of the calendar year, and any salary adjustment changes would be January 1st, outside of a person's anniversary date. So when we have to add the additional monies for that salary compression, see, I mean, you know, we got a lot of moving parts on this one. So let's say my anniversary date is, you know, I'm going to say make something May 1st. So I would get my step increase on May 1st, right? And then January 1st, if the board were to approve it, it would get the salary compression based on minimum wage adjustment, right? And if anything were to change otherwise, if you were to, but let's say that's the only thing we're doing. And then the next one would July 1st would be then any COLA on that. Does that make sense? So technically, for a lot of people, they'll be looking at those records 3 times a year for an individual employee. Their anniversary date, January 1 and July 1.
And it should, you know what I think for me was that we make decisions about budget in summer, early fall. And then it seems like such a long time after the fiscal year started before people got their COLA. And yeah. So we really, with the COLA, aren't affecting very much of the budget year.
We're affecting 6 months. We're 6. It's, you know, how do I say it? It is it's a cumulative budget process. So it starts halfway through, but it carries through 6 months into the next fiscal year, and then yeah.
Okay.
I move that we recommend to the full board approval of the classification and compensation policy.
There's a second?
There's no second?
No second?
Oh, second.
Thank you, John.
I thought Lucy said she seconded.
No, I just,
I'm
Sure.
You asked for a second.
everyone, all in favor
I
of
thought that too.
forwarding this on?
Aye.
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 Okay, carried. And I think there's anything for executive session?
Nope.
I don't have anything. Under additions, I just have a question. Do we have a vice chair for personnel this year? Because Bob, you were vice chair, but now you're president.
Right.
I volunteered if you want that. So
Oh, all right. Okay.
that's up to Bob, though.
No one was chosen.
You mean conscripted or chosen?
Chosen.
So can we put
Well,
Ron
let's
in as vice chair?
Pardon me?
Can we put Ron in as vice chair then?
Yes, we've got 2 changes I heard today. Vice Chair of Policy was Dr. Lewis, and then Vice Chair of Personnel is Ron.
Perfect. Anything else? I have nothing else. Motion to adjourn, I guess.
I move adjourn.
Second,
right.
so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, that's the end of personnel, and I guess we'll see a bunch of you at policy.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Steve.
I can't wait. Exciting
I
new
was gonna say,
topic.
stay safe, but I'm like, you
Hey, Lucy, long time no
You look
see.
Younger, their first picture, you look much younger.
I know. I don't know what happened. It must be the camera. I also had hair then.
That's true, but I wasn't gonna comment on that. So what's been new and exciting for you?
Oh, I was at 2 basketball games yesterday at Emmanuel Lutheran in Belvedere.
Oh, I was at a basketball game at Boylan last night.
Yeah, so we're heading around in dangerous territory, the 2 of us, huh?
Well, there's not too many people that go to the girls' basketball games.
Well, this was 5th and 6th grade,
Fifth grade,
boys,
yeah.
boys and girls, and then the 7th and 8th were later. But our twin grandkids are in 5th grade, so.
Yeah. Well, my husband was supposed to be down in Byron for, I think it was Rockford Christian and Byron, but Byron, apparently they've got a spike because his was, I don't know what grades he had, but they said all the 5th grade classes in Byron were remote for 2 weeks now.
Oh, wow.
But it was just the 5th grade. I thought that was kind of weird.
Well, if you isolate enough, then
Yeah.
and somebody gets, that's what they've done at the school where the twins are at. If a
Yeah.
class has contact, then that class is isolated or the kid's isolated, but not the whole school. So,
Yeah. I've been subbing at Guilford the last couple of weeks, 2-3 days a week. But I'm a good girl. I wear my mask. I behave. I don't get close to those kids anyway.
Not.
that's a good idea.
They're high school kids. They don't want you to be close to them.
No. Yeah, well, I wonder what fascinating topic we have.
I don't know.
I don't
I haven't even
know.
looked at the agenda. Let me look at it.
Can't wait to hear.
Oh, wow. Classification and compensation policy.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
It
Has
does.
it got anything to do with numbers?
Are we streaming live?
Yes, we are. And Angie's with us.
You have lots and lots of numbers. Hello, everyone. Good
Hi,
to see you
Angie.
all.
Hey, Bob, I'm jealous.
How's that?
When I was president, I had to go to these meetings. You could sit in your house and go to them. I went to all those finance meetings and personnel, quality and all that. So I had to go there. And
I'm
here
sure
you are
everyone-
sitting in your house.
Everyone appreciated it too, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, this is really great for you. It really is.
Well, I miss that social, face to face.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't want to go to Division Street for a finance meeting
Probably
No.
not.
because that's where they had it. No. I tried to get John to change it, but he wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
They had to condemn the building to get him out of there.
That was
It's a
horrible
nice
place.
view.
It
It's a
was.
nice view. It's a
Yeah.
horrible place to get to. There's a
Oh,
horrible building.
Has it come down yet?
I don't
No.
think so. No.
no.
Okay. I haven't been over that way in quite a while.
Yeah, I always liked the setting. I didn't mind getting there. Every once in a while I'd forget which bridge was out, but
Yeah, they were down to one bridge.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
it did get to be a little bit strategic. That was the word.
Right.
It was.
Especially for somebody like me from out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, the city now has to put those bridges back in.
Really?
Isn't that
Yeah.
scheduled for 2023?
Something like that, but they have
I
to
think
put them
so.
back in.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that'll make our better, more valuable.
Ah,
That's good.
Yeah, you
I
won't
think
be an
you're right.
island. You won't be an island.
Our
Just maybe
property,
you want to be an island.
no, our property value will be affected by accessibility.
Yeah.
Location,
See?
location.
Yes,
See?
right.
See, Charlotte is in the exact same spot she was in before, but I moved.
She did
Yeah.
too, my screen.
You didn't move on my screen. You're in the
No?
same corner you were, Ron.
No, I had icicles dripping on me before.
Oh,
There.
I see.
Now
That's
I'm-
true.
Oh, Charlotte, you've got some new background going.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, I'd like to be there.
Yes,
I would
that looks
too.
good.
This
Well, we
is
got-
always the hardest time of year when it's so dark, so early.
It
Yeah.
is.
Holidays have passed. We're,
Yeah.
aside from everything else, it's always a dark time. I always say January, and it's a long month.
Yeah.
It's 31 days.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's, yeah.
Sandra,
Well,
have we had on the Division Street building yet?
We have two of them done. We haven't been able to get a third one to go out and do it. So we have those reports. We probably need to set up a time to review those separately. This board meeting is kind of an action-packed one coming up in January. So whether or not you want to do it as a committee as a whole of the board or a separate meeting to review the real estate, really the appraisals.
So would it
two of
come
them-
under finance if it did?
Well, it's kind of an interesting one. It's kind of maybe under presidents. I'm not,
So the whole board should look at it then.
mhm.
Yeah.
Affects everyone.
And not
Right.
one of them sends, I'll be honest, not one of them sent an electronic, Angie, that must be a trend. They don't like to send things in bound books of,
I don't know how they do it in commercial, but no, with, when they do ours, it's because it goes to a lender. It doesn't come back to us as a realtor. I get the copies later. I can get it at closing. But most of those go directly to the buyer's lender because the buyer is paying for it. I don't know how they do it on commercial.
oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
So since Christina knows I'm number challenged, she has sent me a chat saying that we have a quorum.
Very good.
I think I can
No?
I can count up to 5, so I think we're okay. We got 4. And we're
Thank
missing
you.
Jennifer. So let's start the policy committee so we don't run into finance. I need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll move.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? What exciting things do we have? Policies.
Mhm.
Sandra, you're not going to say the whole thing all over again, are you?
oh,
Who?
well, Angie's,
And she didn't hear it.
Angie.
Yeah,
didn't
but
hear it.
Angie's in the know. She knows everything anyway.
Do you know it, Angie?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, Angie.
Well,
Tell me what you're talking about, and then I'll tell you if I know it or not.
so
I did
Angie-
read it.
Okay, so Angie, because it just, personnel committee, which consists of everyone but you that's on this, on this meeting. And so that's why they're kind of giving you a little rub there. Was we reviewed the revised salary schedule proposal. So I think from a background standpoint, Angie, I guess the question is, do you have questions about what we're proposing? Maybe that would be the better way to.
No, I see you've gotten everything lined up for, especially up to 2025, and the increases. And I like the idea that let's see, is it this one that you proposed all this? I don't have a problem with it.
So I think the
I've gone-
most, important thing is to understand we will be coming back probably, at least on an annual basis, because we will be looking at the minimum wage. I think that's an important one to understand, that we'll be increasing the salary by the same month, I'm going to say dollar amount, or so that we do not get wage compression against all of the other grades, right? So if you up your minimum salary within your lowest grade, you have to kind of shift everyone along that pathway. So that's why every year we'll be coming back. And probably the biggest discussion we had was, is that, and just to kind of make sure everyone's clear on this one, is that there are really 3 times finance will be looking at someone's salary. One is their anniversary date to make sure that we are on keeping with where they're supposed to be based on their anniversary dates and length of service. We're going to be looking again at January 1 as we go out to 2025 with the minimum wage adjustment. And then again, for July 1st implementation for any cost of living adjustments, and which Pat indicated and reminded us, we typically approve at the beginning of our fiscal year. So typically we're talking about it over the summer because our budgets have to go into effect in October, but that COLA would be, implemented in July. But remember, it's cumulative. So, that COLA would continue through the first half of the next county fiscal year, and then picked up again should there be any cost of living adjustments. So, and that was really an operational decision so that finance really could make sure that they could make the administrative changes. So for any one employee, they'll be looking at their records at, 3 times a year.
I think you did a great job of putting all this together. I hope the county has started. You're always ahead of the county when you do these things. And, when I looked it over, I thought, fantastic. It's not a last minute thing, and we know it's all coming. And so I think it's written very well. And our staff should really be able to understand. If I can understand this, anybody can understand how this is all written out, to tell you the truth.
Well, I'm going to turn that over to Charlotte. She was the one that did the writing and incorporation of all of our policies. So despite the fact that she's an attorney, she does make it understandable for us.
Wait a minute.
No knock on attorneys, Ron.
Agriculture, all you know about is wheat and corn and animals.
Yeah, but you got to make it understandable.
Yes, I know.
And so, and I think probably, Angie, the other part that the personnel committee was sensitive to is that from a finance perspective, we have looked about how is this going to be funded? So that was probably another discussion, and that's going to finance committee next, which you're going to be on the next call, is that first we're taking really the financial, I'm going to say, biggest hit in years. If you look at, and again, this page, it's the one that's kind of a chart. It's got the red at the top. It's the proposed wage compensation plan. It's really in those first 4 years that we're taking the largest, I'm going to say, lump sum hits, right? To this year would be the largest to what we call prove up the salary schedule. And we're talking about potentially using and proposing using some of our public health emergency reserve fund, of which we've got sufficient fund while still maintaining our minimum. In addition, several of our grantors this year are adding what's called a sustainability increase that is to be used for funding, especially targeting the whole COVID response kind of piece. But it's intended to help build the public health workforce infrastructure and kind of right the ship a little bit. So not all of this would necessarily be coming out. So where we can, we will be submitting that for grant reimbursement. And then when you really look at year 4, which is 2026, we're not even talking a full-time position almost when you start thinking about that. It really then is something that is based on our projections at this point. We believe both can be implemented in a fiscally sound fashion from years 1 to 4, and certainly sustainable, so that we weren't doing a one-time kind of salary adjustment, that this is looking at the longevity of the organization as well.
Good.
I agree with Angie. I think Charlotte did a fantastic job on this. And
yes.
And one of the best hires you've ever done, Sandra. is the little box right next to you on my screen, Charlotte.
Thank you, Ron.
I had to
You're
do some
welcome.
heavy recruiting.
Yeah, and we also have to stick together in the brotherhood and sisterhood of law.
And then you got Lucy, who's documenting away over there. She's not
Oh,
doing
yeah.
her research. This was probably a bad call, right? With 3
Oh,
legal
I'm getting
folks.
everything down.
But I think it became important. I think the other part, we kind of talked about it, was really incorporating those personnel policies that probably, again, have not had a chance to look at. And it's hard to believe you're in 2022. They were first implemented in 2012. So puts us on a better track moving forward.
Yeah.
We have a lot more of them to look at.
Yeah.
In policy, Ron. So.
Oh, okay.
I like the idea too that you went proposed all the way up to year 40. That you're looking forward. Very good.
I just remember when Judy Box Brown, did I get her name right?
Yep.
Yeah. She put in 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody does that. She put in 40 years. Yeah.
And learned to roller skate at the same time.
Ice skate. Ice skate.
Ice skate.
Ice skate.
Is it ice skate? Okay.
Yeah, it's ice skate.
Yeah.
I was thinking about her the other day when I saw the frozen Rock River, and I thought, I used to love to river skate, and now I'm thinking, oh yeah, no, not with global warming, you have to be kind of careful. It doesn't freeze all the way down. I'm like, they used to flood the back of our police department. That's where we skated as kids,
Mhm.
What I didn't like about Judy, she always looked like 40 years younger than me. I don't know. I don't know how she did that. She still looks like a kid, for crying
And
out
she
loud.
never changed.
No, she never
No.
changed. Oh, what a great
Okay,
person.
Christina, Charlotte, and myself, we got some work to do apparently.
Yeah, you got a long way to go.
We
Got to get to
a lot
that
of work
40
to do.
years.
I'm
What
not
do you
gonna.
mean? No. What do you mean?
I'm beginning to feel like I'm going to hit that. And I'm not even on a salary.
Yeah, that's the worst part. You're doing it for free.
I know.
Well,
But it looks so good on a resume. But it looks so good on a resume.
that's
Yeah.
I don't
true.
know what I have a
Yeah.
resume for anymore, but
I
Res-
know.
Resume to be a greeter at Walmart.
No, we don't do that anymore because that's, no touching, no nothing.
Oh, but they still got greeters at Meyer.
they have
Oh,
greeters
they
at
do.
Walmart. They don't get near you.
They just wave.
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion to recommend this policy to the board Tuesday. If
I move that we recommend this policy for acceptance by the board.
I'll
there's a second. Okay.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? I don't know how, Angie will be the only one that should oppose it because everybody else voted for this in the previous
It's in the
meeting.
last meeting, yeah.
So don't get schizophrenic on me. I don't want anybody going the other direction now.
No, I'm all for it.
Good. There's no executive session that I know of. And any additions? There's no additions.
No.
No.
Okay. So motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Great.
All right, so thank you to the policy and personnel committees, and I know President McCreath and Angie, you'll be on the finance with us, right?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
All right, Angie, I know.
We'll
that
see you all next
the
week.
dog to
See you
take a
next
break.
week.
Mhm.
Bye.
You
Bye-bye.
go.
Sandra? Oh, she's
Yes.
gone. Sandra,
No.
when you
I'm
have,
here.
would you give me a call? This thing coming up with Rockford Memorial